The endless highways of America had been Tom Jenkins' real home for 15 years. His small apartment was just a place to sleep between routes. Empty walls and a fridge that was usually bare. The truck cab felt more like home than anywhere else, with its worn leather seat molded perfectly to his body and the dashboard adorned with the few mementos that mattered to him. It was a typical Tuesday when Tom pulled into the rural gas station just off Highway 16. The place was nothing special. A weathered convenience store with 2 pumps out front and a small bench near the entrance. As he filled his tank, Tom noticed her again. A small girl, no more than 12, sitting alone on that bench, just as she had been the previous 2 times he'd stopped here this month. The first time, Tom had barely registered her presence. The second time, just a couple of days later, he thought it strange but figured she must live nearby. But today, something about her dejected posture and the way she hunched over, clutching a worn backpack to her chest, made him pause. Tom paid for his fuel and walked toward the store, glancing at the girl as he passed. A protective instinct Tom hadn't felt in years stirred uncomfortably in his chest. Inside, the attendant was arranging candy bars on a display rack. Tom grabbed a coffee and approached the counter. Tom asked the attendant about the girl outside. The man shrugged without much concern, explaining that she'd been showing up for days now. She wasn't causing any trouble, so he just let her be. Tom frowned at this response. A child sitting alone for days didn't strike him as something to be dismissed so easily. After paying for his coffee, Tom hesitated by the door. With a deep breath, Tom approached the bench. The girl tensed as his shadow fell across her, but she didn't look up. Tom asked if she'd been waiting there a while. He tried to keep his voice gentle and non-threatening. She finally looked up, and Tom was struck by how tired her eyes seemed, too weary for someone so young. She clutched her backpack tightly as she studied him, clearly deciding whether he was a danger. After a moment, she explained that she was trying to get to Millerville, a town about 60 miles east. Tom scratched his beard thoughtfully. Millerville was directly on his route. He explained that he was heading that way and could give her a lift, but he would need to call the authorities if she was in any trouble. Finally, she gave a small nod and stood up, still holding her backpack close. Tom noticed she never fully relaxed as she followed him to his truck. The cab felt unusually quiet as they pulled back onto the highway. Tom had grown accustomed to solitude during his long drives, but this silence felt different, heavy with unspoken questions. He learned that her name was Emily, but his attempts at conversation were met with one-word answers or silence. In the rearview mirror, Tom caught glimpses of Emily quietly wiping tears from her cheeks. He asked if everything was okay, but she just mumbled that she was fine and turned to stare out the window, effectively ending any further discussion. As the miles passed, Tom grew increasingly concerned. What was a young girl doing traveling alone? Was she running away from something or to something? The responsible thing would be to contact the police, but something held him back. When lunchtime approached, Tom pulled into a roadside diner. Emily followed him inside, still quiet but seemingly less tense than before. Tom ordered them both sandwiches, noticing how quickly she ate, as if unsure when her next meal might come. While Emily was finishing, Tom stepped outside to make a quick call. He had a friend who worked in social services who might advise him on handling the situation properly. When he returned to the truck, Tom froze mid-step. There, placed carefully on his steering wheel, was a folded piece of paper that hadn't been there before. His heart began to pound as he approached the driver's side door, glancing around for Emily. She was standing a few feet away, watching him intently, her expression unreadable. Tom reached for the paper with a strange sense of foreboding. The note was creased and worn, as if it had been folded and unfolded many times over the years. As he opened it, the handwriting made his heart stop. It was impossible. He recognized it immediately, his own handwriting from nearly a decade ago. The words blurred as he read, "Angela, I love you both so much. Take care of our little girl while I'm on the road. Please stay clean. Do it for Emily if not for yourself. I'll be back in 2 weeks. Forever yours, Tom." His hands began to tremble uncontrollably. The world seemed to tilt beneath his feet as memories crashed through the carefully constructed walls in his mind. Angela, his Angela, with her bright laugh and demons that eventually consumed her. And their daughter, Their little girl who would be about the same age as… Tom turned to Emily, his voice barely above a whisper, as he asked where she had gotten the note. His legs felt suddenly weak, forcing him to lean against the truck for support. Emily studied his reaction carefully, explaining that the note belonged to her mother, who had kept it all these years. With steady eyes that now seemed so familiar, she revealed that she was looking for her father, a man named Tom Jenkins. Tom fumbled for his wallet, pulling out his license as evidence. He managed to say that was his name, his mind reeling with the implications. Could it really be possible? After all this time? Emily stared at the license, then back at Tom. Disbelief and hope battled across her face as she took a step closer, examining the features they might share. The same straight nose, the same determined set of the jaw. They sat in the truck as the story spilled out between tears. 8 years ago, when Tom had finally decided to get Angela professional help for her addiction, he returned from a long haul to find their apartment empty. Both Angela and their 4-year-old daughter were gone, leaving no trace behind. Tom had searched desperately for months, hiring private investigators and following every possible lead, before finally accepting that they had vanished completely. Emily explained how they had moved constantly throughout her childhood, rarely staying in one place for more than a few months. Her mother's addiction had progressively worsened, making their lives increasingly unstable. The coincidence of Tom stopping at that particular gas station 3 times in a month seemed impossible. Yet here they were. Tom wondered aloud if something more than chance had been at work. With newfound purpose, they continued toward Millerville. The silence now filled with tentative questions and answers as father and daughter began the delicate process of getting to know one another after 8 years apart. When they arrived at the address Emily provided, a small apartment in a rundown complex, a gaunt woman rushed out the door. She was ready to scold her daughter for disappearing when she spotted Tom climbing out of the truck. Angela froze on the sidewalk, years of hardship etched on her once beautiful face. In that moment, between accusations and explanations that would come later, 3 broken people recognized a chance to heal. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was one they could travel together. Tom insisted on getting Angela into a rehabilitation program, using the contacts his social worker friend provided. After some resistance, Angela finally agreed, recognizing that she needed help not just for herself, but for her daughter's sake. Meanwhile, Emily moved into Tom's apartment permanently. The once empty space quickly transformed with her presence. School books spread across the table, colorful drawings taped to the refrigerator, and the sound of her voice filling rooms that had known only silence for years. What would you do if you discovered a family member you thought was lost forever? Would you have the courage to rebuild those broken bridges?